Welcome to day 5 of our Advent Devotional Series. Today we're looking at the question, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Our reading comes from John 13, 3-6. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel round his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet?
Surely you're not going to wear that going to church. They were the words of my mum when I was a teenager. I was about to leave the house wearing my favourite jumper. Now looking back, she was right, it was hideous, but I thought I looked smart. But her astonishment was nothing compared to the astonishment of Peter when he said to Jesus, surely you are not going to wash my feet. Peter always seemed to have a notion of the holiness of Jesus. Right from the beginning, when his fishing nets were miraculously filled, he didn't say, oh Lord, what a fantastic miracle, thank you so much. We read that he fell to his knees before Jesus and he said, depart from me, for I am full of sin. And yet here was this holy, righteous, spotless, sinless man who is God, wrapped in a towel and kneeling at the feet of Peter. The context makes it even more extraordinary. We'd read that Jesus knew that his time walking amongst people was coming to an end. For 3 years he had walked with us, revealing to us the very love of God. And yet for 3 years he had endured opposition, condemnation, rejection. More than that, he knew that in a nearby building just along the road, the rulers of the day were putting their final plans together, wicked plans, to have him arrested, to have him killed. People who were prepared to lie about him at a mock trial had already been recruited. In the room where Jesus was, things ought to have been different. But were they? He had listened as his disciples debated about which of them deserved the places of the highest honour in the kingdom of God. Around the table was a man who had already accepted a bribe of silver to later betray Jesus into the hands of the authorities. And there before Jesus was Peter, and Jesus knew that in a few short hours this man would use the strongest language to say that he never even knew Jesus, and not just once, but over and over again. If you were Jesus, how would you have felt? I know how I would have felt because it's how I do feel now when I watch the news, when I see what we, mankind, do to one another, how we treat one another across the world, and I find myself saying, I just give up on people. We should be so thankful today that Jesus does not give up on people, that he does not give up on you, and that he does not give up on me. And if that isn't blessing enough, there's more. If we read to the end of the chapter, John 13, we'd find that Jesus explained to his disciples why he had adopted the role of the lowliest servant when he washed their feet. But then he said to them, now you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. We need to hear that today. We will be blessed as we serve one another. And when we think about it, that's a blessing that every one of us can receive. To God be the glory.